at the most recent article written by Phan. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. But he has an awesome Twitter. It's at MTLEVG, and he keeps a calendar of all the fights that are coming up. He covers Bangkok Muay Thai, which is really hard to follow outside of Thailand and is also difficult to follow if you don't speak Thai. So he's an incredible resource for following Bangkok Muay Thai in general. And through the generosity of my patrons, we've been able to hire him to write articles that are kind of summarizing the fights that he really enjoyed, and then fights that he's looking forward to. So you get a little bit of a bookend on how to follow Bangkok Muay Thai. So I'm looking at the most recent article that just came out on Patreon. This is free, everyone can see this. And so he's got these two fights from early November, like this. And so you can read about the fighters, which is really interesting and is very cool because this is how Muay Thai is covered in Thai, is you read about a fighter, who they've beat, what their style is, what they're coming off of, and this kind of thing, which is actually how he writes as well. And so he's talking about a fight that has already happened between 20-year-old Saming Det and Rung Kao, who he actually has fought before. There was some controversy things going on and kind of covers all of that. And then there was a rematch on October 23rd. So you can read about that, learn about these fighters.
There's a link to the fights.
The link to the fights is in the articles. And he's got 3 fights that have already happened. Kind of the cool thing also about seeing these names is that you start to see them more often. Like when you first read Thai names, I totally understand. They just you kind of like blur out all of the letters because they're just very unfamiliar. You start seeing these names over and over again. This is how, when I was teaching myself how to read Thai, I would read Muay Thai magazines and the names started becoming familiar. That's totally what's happening when you read these. So at first you're like, I don't know who these people are, but then you start seeing names repeated, which is cool. So you can be like, oh, this guy fought that guy. He beat him, I know this one. And so you actually start familiarizing yourself with the Bangkok scene and the fighters who are in that. And then I really like the part of his article that's the fights he's looking forward to. In his first article, he was talking about the 112-pound division and why this is exciting. There's a tournament going on right now at 112 pounds, so he was talking about the different fighters who are in this tournament, and there was a lot of switching going out. He's very good at covering when someone pulls out, when someone comes in, all this kind of changes. And Kevin and I ended up watching a fight that we probably wouldn't have watched otherwise, except that he had written about it, and it was so exciting. It was so good. I stopped breathing like 2 rounds in and was like screaming at the TV. I didn't know either of the fighters, but I was like really happy that I got to watch that fight, and I only watched it actually because he had talked about looking forward to it. Kevin and I watch Muay Thai on TV all the time, but we have like our favorite shows and stadia that we watch, and we would have missed that one. And then this one I'm going to read a little bit from, because one of the fights that he's looking forward to, I'm looking forward to as well. It's Gulab Dam, means black rose, and people may recognize this name. He is a Muay Mat, like knocks people the fuck out. He knocked out, oh, now I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's so famous. Crap. No good. Okay. He had an incredible knockout, southpaw against southpaw, that was just like so awesome. Sangmani, sorry, forgot Sangmani's name. Gulab Dam knocked out Sangmani. He's fighting Shadow. Shadow not only is one of the only contemporary Muay Thai fighters who I get excited about, but Diesel Noi gets really excited about him too. Diesel Noi puts money on Shadow and talks about Shadow in a way that makes me very happy, so that every time I see his name, I hear Diesel Noi in my head going, Shadow, Shadow. So it's Gulab Dam versus Shadow. This is a Muay Mat versus Muay Thai that, to me, that matchup is golden age matchup. They used to do that a lot. It's very exciting. And so this is coming up. Just to give you a flavor of how Phan writes about this, Gulab Dam hasn't fought in Stadium Muay Thai since the lockdown break ended. He's talking about COVID lockdown. He has, however, competed twice in one championship. That's where he beat Sangmani, knocked him out. In a huge upset, he knocked out Sangmani, who had recently gone on a run that saw him nearly win his second Fighter of the Year title. That's a pretty big upset. Similarly, in a big upset, he was dominated by 30-year-old Rotlek. Rotlek is also incredible, heavy, heavy puncher. So that's a little bit about Gulab Dam. It goes on, there's a lot more information, and then he's talking about Shadow, on the other hand, is Channel 7 Stadium star who broke onto the scene in 2019, known for his aggressive style. He's currently on a 2-fight win streak, the second win coming against Julio Lobo, who is a Western fighter, but is actually a pretty big name on Muay Thai, like Thai language Muay Thai. People are following Julio Lobo a lot. And the second against In Tong by TKO, cut from elbow. So Shadow is a knee fighter who also has elbows, which is very exciting. At the end of these articles, you have links to these fights that are being talked about. And again, if you follow him on Twitter, you get the calendar of upcoming shows and how to watch them. So good person to follow in general to get information about Bangkok Muay Thai. And then for sure, reading this article about fights that have already happened and fights that are coming up, you know which ones to look for and which ones to watch.
We're trying to put out 2 a month.
We're trying to put out 2 a month, which actually covers quite a bit of what's going on in Bangkok Muay Thai, given how much he covers. And it's a good read. You totally will be educating yourself and not just pretending like you know what's going on. You'll actually know what's going on, which is really